You've had your tea break, and I've had my IT break, so we're ready to rock again. So our next speaker is Marian Mahon, and she's going to speak about benefits and entitlements for carers and cared for people. Marian has worked with the Carers Association for the past 14 years, and she was centre manager in Wexford for 12 of those 14. 2 years ago, she took on her new role, which involves providing up-to-date and accurate information to carers and care for people, both within the association and also at conferences and support groups and community groups when requested, as in today. She also oversees the volunteers within the association and is responsible for the National Care Line, which is located in Wexford. And we're delighted to have Marian here today to talk to us on such a very, very key subject to all of us. So, Marian, the floor is all yours now.
Thanks very much, Joe. I'm delighted to be here today, and I'd like to thank Sharon and everyone in OvaCare for inviting me here. My talk, as Joe said, is on benefits and entitlements for carers and cared for people. And when I started working in the association about 14 years ago, we would have a lot of carers coming into our resource centre in Wexford, and one of the things that I kind of found as the years went on was the lack of information, and that when somebody had a diagnosis, they didn't know where to go to look for that information, how to go about it, problems filling in application forms, and if they were refused, appealing that. And so basically we have about 18 centres around the country, the Carers Association have, and basically the carers can come in there, cared for people, and we help them with the information. We run support groups, training, and we provide a respite as well. We're part funded by the HSE, but we have to fundraise in every centre as well to keep services going. And at a national level, we lobby the government all the time for a better deal for carers who are providing services to loved ones at home. We look after carers who are caring for people who are elderly, frail, with a terminal illness, special needs, with a disability, or children with special needs. So it's quite broad range in the number or the people that come into us. So we support all of those people, and I feel that information is power, and that if you have the information when you've had a diagnosis or when life is stressful for you, at least you know what you're entitled to. We can help you to access that and help you with the forms and hopefully make life a little easier. So I'm just going to go through some of the main benefits that I feel would be relevant to this group today. And I also have a booklet that we have devised over the years, and it's about 30 pages long, and it covers most of the payments from the Department of Social Protection and the HSE and other areas as well, and the current rates. It's outside on the table out in the lobby, and please feel free to take a copy of it with you when you're going. But I'm just going to cover some of the things that are in that. Obviously, with time constraints, I won't be able to go through all of them. And at the end, I believe Sharon said there'll be time for questions. If anybody wants to speak to me or ask me a question, please feel free to do so. Or if anybody wants to speak to me privately afterwards, I will be available. Okay. So family carers in Ireland, from the census of 2011, we have approximately 187,000 people who identify themselves in the census at that time as caring, and approximately two-thirds of carers were women, and 1/3 were men. We also have a number of young carers in Ireland, and that is about between 4,000 and 5,000, providing levels of care, and they would be under 15 years of age. The main payment for a carer, and this would be for someone that's going to look after someone at home, is the carer's allowance. And it is a weekly payment of €204 per week if you're under 66, or €239 if you're over 66. It is a means tested payment, and with the carer's allowance, if you're awarded it, you get a respite care grant of 1375 once a year, a household benefits package, which is electricity allowance per month, and free TV licence, and a free travel pass in your own right. So the means for a married couple would be €665 per week of a disregard. So in other words, if somebody was on 800, if there was an £800 gross or €800 gross coming into the house per week, 665 would be taken from that, which would leave 135. That is then divided by 2, and the carer that would be going for the carer's allowance, there would be about 67.50 would be assessed against them. Now, I can go into finer details with that on particular cases if anybody wants me to go through that with them later. It's based on the level of care you're providing. At the moment, with the carer's allowance, you would have to be providing between, over 40 hours per week, in excess of 40 hours per week. There is a medical part of the form which has to be filled in by the person's GP, the cared for person's GP. So it's the level of care you're providing, number of hours, the medical and means. The carer's allowance lasts for as long as the caring lasts, or the caring is required. So the eligibility there is the means test again. The habitual residency is that you live in the country and that your intention is obviously stay in the country. How that is in there as well is because some people have had to come from abroad to come home and mind elderly parents, and they found it very difficult to get the carer's allowance. They were refused because they weren't living in the country for in excess of 2 years. However, the department have relaxed that, and if you can show evidence that you are here to provide care for the length of time that the care is required, they will look at that now favourably for the carer's allowance, provided all the other conditions are adhered to. The provision of full-time care and the medical assessment. So again, the additional benefits, the respite care grant, the free travel and the household benefits package. The household benefits package is only available to somebody that's living with the cared for person. So it's if you're living with the person. The half-rate carer's allowance is a payment that came in September 2007, and it is for somebody that's on a social welfare payment already but is caring. So you could have somebody that's on an old age pension, is caring for their spouse or partner. You could have somebody that's on a disability, is caring for somebody else as well, somebody on a lone parent, and they can actually get a half-rate payment as well as their main social welfare payment. They will get the full respite care grant, and they will get the household benefits package if they're living with the person, and a free travel pass in their own right. So they're all the different payments that you can get the half-rate carers with. It's in this book as well. That's just some sums that I have done there. It's about how you apply, and again I can go through any individual case there. The carer's benefit is for somebody that needs to take time out of work to look after somebody. So if you're working and somebody at home falls ill, you need to take time out of work. By law, your employer has to allow you up to 2 years off work and hold your job open for you at the level you left it. The carer's benefit is €205 per week. It is not means tested, but you still have to have the medical part filled in, and you're providing full-time care. So basically, you're allowed to take the time off work, get €205 per week, and your job has to be kept open for you. So if you need to take time out to look after somebody, if a diagnosis has been made, to somebody that's close to you and you need to take time out work, you can do that. With the carers allowance and the half rate carers and the carers benefit, you can work up to 15 hours per week. So if somebody was working full time, they could go down to a 2-day week or 7.5 hours each for 2 days and get the carers benefit. They can do that for up to 2 years. It's not means tested. So if just say, for instance, we have a couple and both are working, one needs to take the time off work to look after someone in the house. It's not means tested. It doesn't matter what money is coming into the house. It's based on your PRSI contributions. It lasts for 2 years. If the caring is required to continue, after 2 years, you then have to apply for the carers allowance, which is means tested. With the carers benefit, you get the Respite grant, which is the 1375 in June. You don't get the household benefits package, and there's no free travel pass with it. But it is there for people if they wanted to scale down their hours for up to 2 years, or if they wanted to come out of the workforce for 2 years. By law, their job has to be kept open for them. The Respite Care Grant is there, so it may apply to somebody here who is, they wouldn't qualify for the carers allowance based on their means. They're not working any more than 15 hours per week, but they are looking after somebody full time. They can actually apply for the Respite Care Grant on its own. The Respite Care Grant on its own is not means tested. Okay, so I suppose just for a scenario, to give you an example, you could have a couple living at home, and the wife may find that she is going to look after maybe a daughter who becomes ill or a mother who becomes ill, and the household income is way over the means for the carers allowance. She hasn't worked outside the home, so she can't go on to carers benefit. She is providing full-time care. She can apply for the Respite Care Grant once the medical passes that the person needs care, and she can prove that she's providing full-time care. She can get the Respite Care Grant on its own. So there's a lot of people are not aware of that is there. It's 1375. It's for people to use in whatever way they wish. It can be to go on a break. It can be for extra heating costs. People use it for many different things, but it's just, I think a lot of people are not aware that actually that's a payment that can be actually applied for on its own. That domiciliary care allowance doesn't really apply. It's for people under 16 years of age. The household benefits package, again, it is basically, it comes with the carers allowance. It also comes to people over 70, but with the carers allowance, it comes and it is the electricity units per month. It kind of works out at about €35 per every 2 months, or every month. That's what it works out at. And then the free TV license. So that's what the phone used to be there, but the phone is not there anymore. If it's a thing that you apply for the carers allowance or the carers benefit and you're turned down on them, sometimes it's just because you don't provide enough information. It's quite a comprehensive form. There's a lot of detail in it. I would suggest that if anybody's thinking of going for any of these payments, get it checked out by somebody who's well used to looking at the forms. Make sure it's completed fully, and make sure that you take into account all the care that you're providing, because carers by their nature, they actually make very little of what they do. They don't take into account everything that they do during the day, or it's not just hands-on care. It can be it can be washing, it can be showering, it can be cooking, cleaning, it can be medication management, doctor's appointments, hospital appointments, financial management, taken to the hairdressers, you name it. It's all of those things need to be documented down on a page for what you do for that person, because if you don't put down enough of, don't put that down and don't make it comprehensive enough, they may come back and say, yes, you're covered and you passed the means test, but we don't see that you're providing full-time care. So this is your case when it lands on their desk in Longford. So make your case as strong as possible before it goes in. If you can get a doctor's letter, if you can get specialist letter, or from the hospitals, whatever, put copies of those in, send it away, and keep a copy of your medical report so that you know what went in. And then if a refusal comes back, you can appeal it or look for a review. If you happen to get a refusal, you have 21 days to look for a review, which will go back to the same department in Longford, and failing that, it will go to appeal, which goes to Dublin. So sometimes I would always say to people, make sure that you really make your case as strong as possible when it goes in the first time, because you just don't need the stress of getting a refusal. The carers allowance and the carers benefit are taxable, so if you are awarded them, make sure that you make the tax office aware that you are now in receipt of these payments, and that will come. It will be just taken into account as part of the household income. So a lot of people are not aware of that, and it ends up that they owe tax on it. Community services. These services can include public health, nursing services, home care attendant, personal care and assistance with showering, dressing, home help, light household duties, and respite in a residential home. And that may be for older people. The Fair Deal is a nursing home scheme. Again, it is if somebody needs to go into a nursing home. It may not apply to really anybody here. The home care packages is for somebody that is at home and requires attention and wants to stay in their own home. It's where a person is assessed. Again, it can be for older people, but it can be for people under 65 as well. Home support services are provided to assist persons to continue to live at home and to provide respite for carers. Service consists of personal assistance service, which involves the employment of personal assistance by people with disabilities to enable them to live as independent lives as possible. The mobility allowance is on hold since February 2013, and that was for people to access public transport and who would benefit from getting out of the home for breaks, and it would go towards the cost of taxis or paying for transport to take them out. But as I say, it's closed because at that time it was for people between the ages of 16 and 66, and it was found to be discriminatory, so they have pulled the scheme. The people that were on it are still on it, but it's not open to new applicants, and we're still awaiting a new scheme. So they've saved 2 years' money on that. The Supplementary Welfare Allowance, if you are in difficult financial circumstances and finding it hard to pay all the extra costs because the person you care for needs a special diet or additional heating, you should apply for Supplementary Welfare Allowance to the Department of Social Protection's representative, formerly known as a Community Welfare Officer, at your local health centre as soon as the need arises. Other costs which you may be assisted with include household equipment or expenses due to a sudden hospitalisation. I'm involved with multiple sclerosis in Wexford for the past 22 years, and we would have younger people in their maybe 30s, early 40s with MS, and they're living just on a disability allowance, which is 188. So with MS, they have mobility, more than likely have mobility problems, and find it hard to heat themselves. So we do have a welfare committee, but I would have been in touch with the community welfare officers, and we have got fills of oil for people that have MS and find it hard to heat themselves because of the mobility problems. So just to be aware that if that's a problem, think about that. And if people are ill and unable to heat themselves but need to be kept warm during the winter, the cost of heating can be just so high. So just think about that. The possibility may be there of getting a fill of oil from the community welfare officer. Medical cards, again, it is down to means test, and obviously it's quite low. I was talking to a couple of ladies there at lunchtime. So, like, if it's a thing that you, obviously, if you have a diagnosis and you're going to be needing medication and doctors and all that sort of thing, I would look for a discretionary medical card based on your high medical needs and having to maybe go to the doctor a lot and medication. So, not based, you know, if it's a thing that you feel that you're not going to get it financially, look for it on medical needs. The long-term illness scheme, it's not covered here, cancer on that, but if you happen to have one of the illness on the long-term illness list, just to be aware that you can get, once you are using medication for one of those illnesses on the long-term illness list, you don't have to pay the prescription fee. Once you get your doctor to write it down for you, the HSE will issue you with a long-term illness book, and you can go to the pharmacist and have that prescription filled free. And you may have to pay then for medication that's not covered on that list. But just to be aware that you can have a medical card and you can have a long-term illness card as well. So that only came in there about a year and a half ago. The motorised transport, that's closed at the moment. The free travel pass, as I say, is there for people that are awarded the carers allowance. The homemaker scheme is just for people that give up work to look after someone. And that's it. So hopefully you have found out something that maybe you didn't know. As I say, I'll be here at the end if anybody wants to ask me questions or wants to speak to me privately. All right, thanks very much.